Hey, Kimber. Hey, dude. You like that, don't you, buddy? All right, there's somebody. All right, guys. You might be the only one. Who's here with me for just a second? We're gonna have a fireside chat if you'll hang out with me for just a second. Maybe not. We're gonna have a fireside chat here. Well, we'll go ahead and put it up. So this week, due to schedule, I have not been able to edit video. I have some shot video that I'm going to get out hopefully later on this week, but I thought I'll put a couple of lives up to keep the flow of content at least coming up on the page. The fire's getting nice here. I might be a little bit too close to it. My legs are getting warm. But here's the topic that I want to bring up, and I hope that you'll jump in the comments, even if you're not here right now. I hope that some of you will come through in the days ahead and see in the comments. I want to talk about this subject of biting off more than you can chew, kind of intentionally. Most of the time when you hear that phrase, you know, he bit off more than he can chew, you think of it in a negative way. And I understand that, and often it's the case. Scripture talks about how an unwise man will not consider a whole project. So he'll get halfway through building a house, and his neighbors will comment about how unwise he was because he wasn't able to finish building it. And they talk about the idea of counting the cost before you get into something, being a component of maturity and wisdom. It's an important conversation for sure, and I'm not at all negating that. But there's this other idea in wisdom literature, and particularly in the Old Testament. There's this idea in the Old and the New Testament of it being a good thing for a man to bear the yoke or bear weight of life in his youth, to take on more than it feels like that he can handle, and find a way to move forward under greater weight than would seem desirable. And I don't mean literal physical weight. I mean weight of responsibility, weight of life. And so there is a strategic thing, and maybe you've done this. I've certainly done it. Sometimes I frustrate myself with doing it. And that is this concept of biting off more than, or just the maximum of what you might be able to chew with a project, like taking on more responsibility than you feel like you're capable of dealing with. So you're taking on more responsibility than is within your capability, just beyond it, not way beyond it. That's where it gets incredibly dangerous, but just outside of, like, increasing your borders, stretching your limitations, going just outside of, quite outside of your comfort zone, but just outside of your maximum current potential, and finding a way to navigate under a greater weight, under a greater responsibility than you've navigated life before. So there are a lot of things in life that are this way. For example, if somebody, forgive me, I'm going to move this fire a little bit farther away from me. For example, if somebody says, I am going to be 100% ready to have children before I become a father, or before I become a mother, they're either going to do one of two things. They're either going to, one, never have children, or two, be deluded in their belief that they're actually 100% ready when they have children. Um, you can do a lot of things to prepare. I did a lot of things. You read, you learn about medical things, you take classes with your wife, to whatever you're going to do. There are a lot of things that you're going to prioritize to try to be ready to be good parents and to have children. Great. But the truth of the matter is, every parent will tell you that no matter how many steps they took, they weren't fully prepared for the undertaking, because you don't know exactly what the experience is going to be. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. Are you going to have children with special needs? Are you going to have children with particular health needs? Are you going to have children with great opportunities and therefore a lot of costs because of, I don't know, some athletic ability that's incredibly special, or some intellectual capacity that's incredibly unique, or whatever it might be? You don't know the future, and therefore you can't be completely prepared for what's going to take place in the future. It's just too stinking hot. That fire is a good fire. Let me show you. Man, let's get these plastic chairs backed up here. Move the chairs around. Forgive the... So there's this idea, hey baby, again, of taking on greater weight than you're able to. Maybe you'll want to say something about this. Maybe you won't. So I'm talking about the idea of taking on more weight than you can, biting off more than you can chew, taking on more weight than you can, than is currently within your capability, but just beyond it, and doing so from a growth strategy, right? Like you don't do that taking on so much that it's going to crush you. You take on, just like the scriptural idea is, it's good for a man to bear the yoke in his youth. Hey, Evan, what's happening? So there's this idea of taking, so an example that I'm giving is, anybody that wants to have children and they say, I'm going to be 100% ready before I have kids, they're either never going to have children, or they're going to be deluded when they think that they're 100% ready, because you have to know the future to be able to be completely prepared. And even if you did, you'd realize that there are things that you haven't been able to consider, and certainly not to prepare for. So there are all those things. So there's a strategy when it comes to growing yourself or pushing yourself to reach just beyond your capability, and find a way to navigate in that spot where you're being stretched but not broken. Hey, bush cats, you have any thoughts about that? Or you don't want me to turn the camera towards you?
I have thoughts, but
Yeah, you get
it. Chill.
Okay, all right. Well, here. So say that again, so everybody.
I have thoughts on the matter, but I just came out here to chill.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to the one of the neighbor cats the only neighbor cat is coming over, so we're gonna sit by the fire and chat here. If you guys have thoughts about that subject, that strategic idea from a personal growth strategy of pushing yourself, or biting off just beyond what you can actually chew, and finding a way to chew it, strengthen your jaw, so to speak. Maybe you've got examples that you want to talk about in the comments. I'd love to hear about those. Anyway, hope you're well. I hope you're having a good week. We're halfway through it. I'm mentioning this because we're definitely in one of those seasons where it feels like, man, we bit off a lot, and I've personally bit off a lot in a lot of areas of my life, and just finding finding a way to chew those and you start out by just kind of keeping your nose above water, and we're getting to that place slowly but surely that like our head's getting up above water, and it's like, man, sometimes you get dangerously close. I think my risk tolerance might be a little too high. Sometimes I get a little closer to biting off more than we can chew than I probably should. So I wonder what your thoughts are in those in that area. Hey, Evan, often naivety has let me daggone it. Often naivete has lent me that opportunity, learned enough to repeat intentionally. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's this weird thing, and I got to get off here because I want to hang out with Laura. But it's this weird thing of like the younger the younger I was, the more hubris or ego or just natural innate confidence was present. There are a lot of things that I kind of wish sometimes that I still had, because it's a really beneficial, almost a magnetic characteristic to be able to be like totally, completely sure of things. But the longer I live and the more experience I have, the less sure I am about almost anything. But the more knowledge I have, and I guess you just see more angles the longer you live, and realize that the percentage of accuracy is much lower than you first realized, but that shouldn't stall you. That shouldn't make you inactive. That shouldn't cause you to. That should allow you to move with greater precision. But it is difficult because if you're going to be honest with yourself and with others, you have to say, yeah, I'm 70% sure. I'm 65% sure that this is going to work great, and I think that's enough to act on. And that's not nearly as compelling as like, hey, everybody, I got this idea. It's going to work. I'm 100% sure. That's not the same thing, but it is honest, and it's not what everybody's looking for, but it's what I'm looking for. Authentic, honest, personal, and leadership with the community of people around me. That's like, okay, I think it was, and I'm jumping off. I think it's Louis L'Amour that said in one of his Western fiction novels, I'm trying to remember which one it was, that like the best leaders in the world, the best leaders in human history were like, I can't remember if he said 75 or 80 or 65. It was some relatively low percentage, that success to their success ratio was above 50%. They're correct. They were right about more like 60-40 or 65. I can't remember. I've got to go back and look it up. But they were just right more than half the time. And that made them incredible, like above average, like leaders. So, and they were honest with the people that followed them. I got to go back and find that quote because obviously I've just butchered it. You don't remember it, do you? Anyway, you guys have a good night. Be blessed.